Hey everybody, today I want to work on a Lego City project. I've been talking about this one for a long time, and I think today is the day. We have 3 turns right there, like 3 turn road plates. Why don't we just build an angled road? I think it's going to be cool, but I've never really done anything like it before. Well, I guess recently we built this one here, so I've got a little bit of experience, but this one is a little bit different. It's a countryside road that doesn't have a sidewalk, but it gave me a pretty good understanding of how to do it, so now I want to take on the one within the downtown core. Now, the other day I made a video just talking about all of the different roads here throughout the countryside, weighing the different options, and I wanted to let you know that unfortunately at this particular point in time, I still don't know what I'm going to do. But I am leaning toward not having the connecting road that's going to go from that tunnel to this tunnel and just have a road that connects to the gravel road over there, and then have a really cool tunnel entrance that goes into the mountain mid-mountain, right? This gravel road goes over a bridge, and then that bridge leads into a tunnel entrance, which is mid-mountain. I think that would be so cool if it was like elevated rather than just doing another tunnel like that. I think that's sort of boring. So yeah, I am leaning toward that because it's more of like an interesting dynamic. So I think that's probably the way it's gonna go. So we can see the original triple curve right down there. And then up on my desk, I have the new prototype for an angled road. Now this is substantially different than the one that I did in the countryside because of course it's going to have sidewalk on either side, and it also has the white line. So I had to come up with a solution for giving it an angled white line, which leads into another straight line, which is of course on the straight portion of the angled road. And let me tell you, there was a lot of math involved. Well, Lego math that is, but I think the end result looks pretty good, and I think the sidewalk is actually going to work with the large triangular light bluish gray plates that we currently have. Now, of course, this is just my prototype for an angled road, and of course this math would change based on the angle of the road and also the size that you wanted to make it. However, there wouldn't be a huge difference if you were to increase the angled portion of the road. I think you would use the same techniques. At both the beginning and we'll call it the end of the angled road, we have a 16 by 16 road plate, and one of them is missing a tile. Sorry about that. But this 16 by 16 road plate has been extended to 20 studs using our standard road extenders with 1 brick, 1 plate, and 1 tile. And that's how we add the line to the side of the road. And of course, this is tacked in place by using the Technic bricks, which are adapted to a 1x2 plate. And it's the exact same thing over here. Where it gets a little bit tricky is coming up with the angle. And I decided to create the angle with plates. So I actually use 2 different sizes of wedge plates. We have the 8 by 8 wedge plate, and then there's a 4 by 4 wedge plate. And those 2 plates side by side aligned with the 16 by 16 anchor plate seem to give us the perfect foundation for the angled section of road. Now these 2 down here, I started putting some tiles down. I don't have any more triangular dark bluish gray tiles, which is unfortunate. I will have to order some more, but this is what those plates look like, and I can expose them here so you can see their exact alignment. So the larger 8 by 8 one, which is black right there, it aligns perfectly with our anchor plate, so the 16 by 16 road plate. And then of course I just put the 4 by 4 one right next to it, and that aligns perfectly with this 16 stud section of road plate. And then once those are placed, you can just cover them with tiles. I use some of those like weird right angle ones and the triangular ones to match the angle of the road. And then I just filled in all the available studs with like 2x4, 2x2, some of the right angle ones. But you will notice this section right here is actually part of the road extender, and that is brick built. And look at this. That was a little bit of a challenge to line up perfectly with the white line on the angled section of road. So of course I had to build this panel twice. And the first one is a little bit sloppy just because I was building it with like plates, like 1x1, 1x3, 1x2, just trying to get the math right. And then the second one I was able to replicate it and I was able to clean it up. This is the second one. So I used some larger panels on the bottom there. There's a 1x8 plate, then we have a 1x10 brick, and then just like a whole bunch of plate and panel and brick in there. Feel free to pause it and have a look at that, screenshot it, zoom in on it, whatever you want to do, just because it's going to be hard for me to explain exactly how I built that. Really, you just have to replicate it. So there's a good picture of it there. And this here is just 16 studs. So that's literally just held on by the tile. So that's more so like the challenge right there. This is just like your standard half road plate extension, which is of course 16 studs. But it's funny when you have a look at this one, it looks pretty clean, like you got some big bricks in there, and then you have a look at the original, and you can see it's like all plates, because I was just like weighing it. There's like stacks of bricks and stacks of plates. There's just so many more like seams, whereas when I had it perfected, I could just replicate it. But I don't really see a sense in rebuilding this one. It still gets the job done, so I'm not going to redo that one. It's just funny looking at the difference between the two. But I think that angled line lines up pretty well with that line there, and then it just sort of goes with the road. Okay, so that's how we create the anchors for the angled road, but wait a minute, what about the actual angled section of road? How did I create that? And how did I tack down the extensions on either side? Because it's mounted at an angle. And what is the math to get that perfect? Because as you can see, it's sandwiched between the two anchors perfectly. There's no gap on this side really, nor on this side over here. So the road plates themselves, very easy. Just grab your road plates, tack them together using the 2x4 tiles. And this one here is a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half road plates. So this is the half section. And on this side over here, I actually extended it 3 studs. So the road plate is going to end right there. And then you have 1, 2, 3 studs. And I did that with just plate underneath. So it's just 3 studs of plate, and it's all held in place by those tiles. And then you'll see right there was a little bit of a gap. So I pulled a classic maneuver and I wedged some tiles in there. There's 2 1x8 tiles just sandwiched in there, making it a seamless line. Now on this side, I did something a little bit different. I extended it by 2 studs. You can see the end of the road plate is right there. 2 studs, so it's actually 2 plates in there. It's not 1 2x plate. It's 1 1x plate, like 1 row of 16, and then 1 row of modified plates with the rail. And you can see the rail element right there. I probably could have got away with just extending it by 2 studs, similar to the other side, and then sandwich a tile in there too, but I wanted to use the 2 different techniques. So this rail piece is just holding it in place. And of course, I'll pop it out and I'll show you what this is actually sitting on, and we'll show you the math on the underside of it because that'll provide a better visual. But our road extenders on the side here, so this one stretches all the way from over here, all the way along here. It's actually being held in place by these wedge plates. There's 3 of them, 1 on this side, 1 on the other side, and 1 in the midsection. And that's literally just holding it in place by friction, just locking it in place there really. That seemed to work. Now I found out that this road extender actually couldn't be like the full thickness of it all the way along. So over here, I modified it and I put 2 1x2 plates, a 1x1 plate, and a cheese slope to try and fill in that gap there. And I think that was the best way to fill in that little gap. You are going to see a little bit of green poking out from the underside. I can't fill that little bit of green in with a tile because that will raise up the road extender 1 tile, so that wouldn't work. But what I could do, if that really does bother me, which it probably won't because it's so small, but I could build this on dark bluish gray base plates, which I do have in my inventory, and that would eliminate that little tiny bit of green that's going to be exposed. But this little tiny bit of green right here is going to be covered up by the triangular tile. Same with the tiny bit of green on that side over there. Now this road extender doesn't have to be modified with like the cheese slope technique there. Rather, it's just one big long road extender. And I tried to hold it in place using the wedge plates and it wasn't working. So I actually grabbed some jumpers and some 1x1 modified bricks with a Technic hole, and that held it in place on either side. And for some reason, the math just worked out perfectly. Granted, I haven't placed the sidewalk yet, but this here seems to be lining up beautifully. However, this one on the end, I think it has to be this size here because unfortunately this one, if I put another one there, it's going to overlap onto the road. But I can very easily fill that in with another plate, like a 1x1 plate, and then get that to work. I don't really know. I haven't really got around to doing that yet, but I'm assuming it's going to work out a-okay. So under this road plate, there's just a whole bunch of tiles. Typically, my road plates would be tacked down with plates. Like these ones here are tacked down with plates underneath, and that's going to give us the right height. But because this would be sitting on the studs, that would actually raise it up another plate, so you want to use tiles. And then this is the underside here. So once again, this side is extended 3 studs using 2x plate and 1x plate. And then this side over here is extended 2 studs, but one of the rows of studs actually has the modified plates with the rail. And the one thing I like about using the tiles is that we can remove that and we have the grace of space. It has a little bit of wiggle room, so it's easy to remove if you need to make some modifications to it or fix some things up. And then once you get it in there, you can just lock it in by jamming your 1x8 tiles in that little gap. And then it's all sandwiched in there. So yeah, there we go. Now I got to come up with a sidewalk solution, but I think this is going to work. The issue is I'm not going to have the tiles to do it correctly, and I'm not going to have the tiles to do this correctly, which is sort of a bummer. And this here is actually a train track plate, so I need to modify that train track plate because I'm not going to transfer all that stuff. I just need to rip out some of the mills work there. And then I'm probably going to merge this into one giant plate. So I don't plan any of this stuff. I don't use computer programs. I don't pre-build any of it for the video. I just walk you through my process using the trial and error method. That took me over 3 hours to come up with. And things might change as I progress with the video and as I progress with the model. Just like anything I do in my Lego City, I might come up with different techniques, or things might have to change. For example, these road extenders, I might be able to shorten them on this big chunky side because I need to put a stud there so that we can actually build the sidewalk or whatever it may be. But me, I don't really pre-build stuff. I'm sort of just sharing the experience with you as I do it, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm having fun with this angled section of road. It's sort of different. It's going to add a cool dynamic to the Lego City, that's for sure. I tidied up the black plate right here by covering it with the dark bluish gray tiles. I also tidied up some of the tile work on here. There's a lot of seams because I was using those corner plates, but I found some 2x3s. I didn't think I had any 2x3s, but I dumped out my whole bin of 2x4s and found them. Also, I finished all the mills work. It was a little bit strange filling this in because you're dealing with triangular shaped tiles, so there was a lot of like weird spacing. So for the most part, I just started on the exterior and worked my way inward. So these are like all large 6x8 plates, which are easy to work with. But then when I got in toward the interior, toward the triangular shaped plates, it's all like strange. It's like a 2x4, 4x4, 4x6, 1x6. And you know, if you mills plate using all that weird stuff, the underlying brick becomes sort of a scattered mess. But it is what it is. I filled it all in and I think it looks pretty good. So you've got our smaller triangular plates on this side. These are the 6x6 ones, because that's all I have. I don't have any more. I'm just trying to use the parts that I have in my inventory. Just got these from buying bulk lots, so some of them are even, yeah, I know. I'm not gonna throw them out though. They look the same. If you know, you know. But yeah, we've got cylinders actually between them to fill the gap. So there's a cylinder in there, and then I put a 1x1 plate on top. And it's funny, after I did all the triangular plate mills work, I discovered that you can actually see in there and you can see all the underlying brick. So of course you can't use colorful underlying brick, so I had to rip it all out. It's actually fairly difficult to rip it all out, but I had to rip it all out and swap it all with light bluish gray. So now all the brickwork underneath that is visible is all light bluish gray. So we don't see that color. Because even when I tile top this, like when we put a triangular tile there, you're still going to be able to see that little triangular gap along the road. It won't be that noticeable, but still I want to make sure only light bluish gray is visible along the curb. So it is one large chunk, which is sort of strange. It's like specifically built for that area in the Lego City by the train station and in front of the Parisian street. And of course the original is still down there, which was sort of strange as well. And I was able to transplant something from that setup down there, and that is the little set of stairs that actually goes up to the raised area in front of the Parisian street. The next thing I need to do is throw down a ton of light bluish gray tiles, and you can see we're going to have some available space for like common areas. Not sure what I'm going to do with that space for now, so I'll probably just tile it off and give it a clean look. But once again, I'm not going to have all those odd shaped tiles to give it the perfect look at this particular time. They're on our order list. I'm going to order probably 100 or 200 light bluish gray and dark bluish gray triangular tiles, and also these weird right angle ones. So when we do projects like this in the future, we have those tiles. Then I was also able to blend in these angles right here using the 2x3 and 2x4 wedge plates. There is a little bit more road exposed, like after the white line, than I would like, but I think it looks good and it sort of makes sense. I could maybe alter it a little bit, but I think it just lines up perfectly with these triangular plates and then sort of tapers inward toward the sidewalk. So it's 6 studs here. I don't think it's the end of the world that there's a bit more road right there because this is like a corner. So the drivers have a little bit of give, I guess, when they're taking that corner. Here it is, everybody. Fully tiled off. Oh, not fully tiled off, but at least it's in the state where I can fully tile it off. So I use these corner tiles right there, and then the funky corner tiles, and then I left the spot open for the triangular tiles, and you'll see that that is going to make it flush all the way along. And that's as far as I got until about there, and then it's just exposed studs. But on this side I have all the corner tiles, and then they end right there, and on this side it's completely exposed. I decided to add some small details such as these benches. Unfortunately, I don't have 1x6 dark blue tiles. I'll add those to the order list as well because I like dark blue benches, but you'll see the backrest is actually 1x6s. These benches are pretty cool. They use a bracket, the modified rounded 1x2 plates, 3 connector elements, one with the forward-facing clips and one's with the forward-facing bar to support the backrest. The circular modified plate, or like inverted plate, whatever you want to call it there, to hold it all together, and then the 2x2 tiles and 2x2 modified tiles with the 2 studs on the top there so you can put a minifigure sitting. And I put 3 benches up along the grass for now, just by the train track there, and I spaced out a couple street lights as well. Now there is some light bluish gray that's popping out there. That's because I used 8x8 plates. I could reduce the size of that, but I am going to have to tidy up this tiling once I get those triangular tiles, because my plan would be to put triangular tile all the way along, and then it would be flush with the angled road, both like up against the curb and also by the benches. And when I make those swaps, I guess maybe I'll reduce this plate here so that this is grass coming right up to the angled area, or just like tile behind the benches and have this all tiled along here. That actually might look good too. Actually, you know what? I don't need to wait to order those tiles to make that decision. I think the sidewalk should be wider here and cover up that 8x8 plate under there. Then I don't have to redo the plate work, which was sort of a nuisance. And I think the sidewalks here should be grand because these sidewalks are leading up to the train station and also leading up toward the zoo and the beach. And the sidewalks are sort of grand on this side here. That's why I decided to put this little corner kiosk, which was a GWP with the Tudor corner. So there you go. We've got the corner kiosk there. You can pick up a newspaper leading up to the staircase, which leads up to the elevated area and the Parisian street. And I tiled around that in dark bluish gray. We've got some more street lights on this side here. I might change the position of the street lights based on where they are when we place this in the Lego City. There's another one of those benches right over here, and then a couple planters. And I decided to tile around those planters in dark tan. This is a bracket built planter. We've got the 2x8 plate on the bottom. There's 2 2x6 plates on the top in reddish brown. Brackets coming off the side of those. There's a 2x4 plate on top of this 2x8 plate. And then there is these modified plates or bricks with the forward-facing stud. And then you fill in the excess space in the brackets with 1x1 plates in reddish brown. And then you frame it using tiles, and we're able to evenly space those tiles so they meet up in the corners by putting some leave elements on the brackets on the side. And then of course we've got some flowers in there. And there's the footprint for it. And that just slots right in place and push it down. And I decided to do them diagonal. I was messing around with it. I was like, oh, maybe they should go side by side. Maybe they should go lengthwise. But I was like, you know what? Let's do them diagonal. And I think that looks pretty neat. And I like the fact that we can put a bench right there. And we'll be able to add more details in this area in the future. But why don't we place it and see what this looks like? But you know what I haven't really tested yet? Transporting this thing. Maybe I should remove this road and reinforce those seams completely. Because it's not Mills plate where the road is, right? It's just reinforced by the tiles. This is sort of super awkward. It is huge. How am I gonna place this? I don't know. I gotta be like really stretchy arms here. There we go. Okay, away I go. Down the stairs. Oh, the lights aren't on. Terrific. Exciting times though. We're placing it. Okay, I'll stop narrating and focus on the stairs. I made it safely, but in hindsight, I should have had a table or a surface large enough to put this on. Now I've got to try and pick it up off the floor. But I think when it comes to placing it, the best option was to clear everything. So I just cleared some road plates and the train station, and I'll probably clear a few more things, and now I'll just pop it in there. No big deal. Okay, I'm picking it up. Let's see if this is no big deal, everybody. All right, here we go. Oh my gosh, I need longer arms. What the? Okay. Oh yeah, there goes the roof of the diner. Should have moved the diner. Okay. Knocked over the French fry sign. It's still good. It's still good. Woo! All right, gonna do some repairs. Well, here we go. We may as well test the train as well, because I had to modify that plate with the train track. Beautiful. You know, the road's a bit stutty for now, but it's an angled road. 45-degree angled road. Pretty sure it's 45 degrees. What do you think? Does it look a little bit better than 3 turns? I think so. I think so indeed. It just adds like a nice little dynamic to that area of the city. Lots of open space there for more details as well, such as all the green space, and we'll continue to develop it. I think that's the cool thing about Lego Cities, is that you can continue to improve things. This area, you know, didn't look bad before, but now it looks even better. Indiana Jones though, buddy, like, you gotta learn how to drive, okay? The lines are on the road for a reason. There we go. Oh no, I forgot to make it solid light bluish gray on the side here. Uh-oh. I guess I'll have to fix that up too. Rip out, just a few plates there. No big deal. Right on, there we go, everybody. That's my angled road, and now that I know how to build it, will I be building more in the future? Maybe. I'm definitely not going to build any more until I do a parts order, though, because I don't want my sidewalks to look like that. That doesn't look proper. But I'm glad that I was able to add some details to the area as well. I think that sort of pulled it together nicely, and you can see there's some minifigures walking around there too. And, of course, enjoying the food trucks. But why is there an ambulance and a tow truck back here behind Parisian Street? I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on by. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for some more great stuff coming out in the near future. All right, take care. Have a great day. Bye for now.